Hi, my name is Rachael Raffini, and I will be talking about the movie Radio today. So, first, just a quick synopsis of the movie. Radio depicts the true story of a small town's initial reluctance to accept James Radio Kennedy, an African American teenager with an intellectual disability. After witnessing football players bully and mistreat him, Coach Harold Jones steps in and invites Radio to help out with the team, and many in the town, even members of the school board, view Radio as a distraction and argue that he doesn't belong in school life. Despite that resistance, however, Coach Jones sees beyond Radio's disability, recognizing his heart and his humanity. So in the movie, Radio has an intellectual disability, and below I've included some characteristics of an intellectual disability as defined by our textbook. So first, Radio has difficulty focusing and maintaining attention. So during practices and games, he often gets distracted and wanders, requiring repeated reminders from coaches. Second, Radio struggles academically, so he struggles with his reading, his writing, recognizing letters, including learning how to write his name. And then finally, Radio's speech and language are affected. So Radio uses short, fragmented sentences and sometimes repeats words when communicating with others. So I've covered ways that Radio demonstrates characteristics often associated with intellectual disabilities, but I would be remiss not to also mention the traits as noted in our textbook that do not align with his character. So according to our textbook, individuals with intellectual disabilities may lack motivation, but Radio is highly motivated, especially in supporting his teammates, even after being ousted from riding the team bus to an away game. The textbook also notes that some individuals may have social challenges, but Radio is very social, enjoying interactions with students and faculty, and he never wants to leave the 11th grade because of these connections that he's made. So moving on to the psychosocial stigma, first we've talked about how individuals with disabilities are often perceived as a threat to society. That was mentioned in one of our readings, and in the movie, the school board and parents view Radio as a distraction and a disruption, both in the classroom and on the football team. Second, we read about how non-disabled individuals sometimes treat disabled people poorly, placing the responsibility on them to educate others. And when Johnny tricks Radio into entering the women's locker room, putting him in a difficult position, Radio responds with compassion rather than reacting negatively, effectively teaching Johnny how to behave appropriately. And third, we read that there's an undertone of sexual danger in the way that society views disabled individuals, and parents and school officials reacted with severe alarm when Radio is tricked into entering the women's locker room, even though Radio knew deep down that he shouldn't be in there. Next, we read that disabled characters are often confined or dependent on others. For instance, Mary Ellen tells her father, Radio needs what you're doing more than I do, highlighting Radio's reliance on care. And then finally, we read that able-bodied individuals are often seen as having a continual obligation to help. And in Radio's case, his mother, Coach Jones, and the broader community all step in to help guide him and protect him. So moving on to the effect on individuals, I think this movie really elicits a sympathy for Radio. We definitely connect emotionally to Radio as he's teased and struggles academically. It inspires compassion and patience. Coach Jones certainly models understanding and consistent support for Radio. It encourages advocacy and inclusion. Teammates and the community members gradually start to include Radio in different activities, showing the benefits of acceptance. And then it makes you reflect on personal biases. So in the movie, characters initially see Radio as a distraction, but they then come to value his kindness and his contributions to the community. And then lastly, from watching Radio, I think there's several key learning experiences that we can take away. Individuals with disabilities are capable and valuable. Inclusion benefits everyone. Patience, guidance, and support matter. Empathy and human connection are essential. And then these are my references, and I would highly recommend everyone watch Radio if they have a chance. Thank you.